Land grabbing, Uganda's treasured oil belt lies in the armpits of the Great Rift Valley, a unique physiographic region comprising of the rift escarpments towards the lakes Albert, Edward, and George and the snow-capped Rwenzori Mountains. It is here that the country announced the discovery of commercial oil worth 300 million barrels in 2006. The stock tank today is estimated at 6.5 billion oil barrels, of which 1.4 billion is recoverable. In 1983 to 1984, the Obote II government undertook aeromagnetic surveys in the Queen Elizabeth National Park and the adjoining Lake Edward George Basin, part of the Albertine Belt, which confirmed the potential of oil in the area subject to further exploration. In 1992, according to the Ministry of Energy, additional gravity surveys were undertaken around Lake Edward area in Kasese district. In late 1994, additional gravity, magnetic, geological, and geochemical surveys were undertaken around the Lake's George Edward Basin, which informed the decision by the Ministry of Energy to license Dominion Petroleum, which was unsuccessful in its oil exploration on the Ngaji oil block. This Ngaji block area covers half of Lake Edward, part of Queen Elizabeth National Park, and also forms part of the same ecosystems as Virunga, Africa's oldest national park, which is a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Any attempt for oil exploration in Virunga in the rest of eastern DR Congo has been resisted by international and local conservation groups. As such, the Ngaji block has been opened twice by the prospective oil companies during the first and second licensing rounds by the Ministry of Energy in 2015 and 2019, respectively. Regardless, the prospect of oil exploration in Kasese, sooner or later, raised the stakes in the long-running multi-layered coexistence question between the Bakonzo and Basongora ethnic groups native in the area. Already, there is a mad rush for land in Kasese, and several sacred cows in government are said to be quietly acquiring large tracts of land.
This oil, actually, as you know, they have been calling it a curse. Our area was also cursed as if with that oil. So many government officials, especially the military and what have you, were interested in that very thing. That's why we are having that problem. Otherwise, if it was for the sake of looking for pasture for the Basongora themselves are not nomads, are not part of the nomadics that you hear of roaming the whole country. They have never left the Basongora. They have been here ever since, and we have been with them. But the people they have brought in just came in recently.
Should get it from me, you can even make time and go and interview people who stay there, including the old Bakonzo. They will tell you Basongora are never part of the Bararo and they've never grabbed land. What they are fighting for is the ancestral grazing land.
What we think is that these historical injustices, I think, I would say would be something to do with the Basongora and government, not the cultivators. So I don't think that those historical injustices have anything to do with the current conflicts that we're having. The historical injustices are one thing. What we are seeing now that is causing these conflicts is because, first of all, we have to acknowledge this land pressure, but also because of lack of clarity on who owns what.
We've had issues to do with governance and how the local population, how it should be directed. There are some long outstanding issues. To me, in my personal analysis, I've seen them to be personal. But yet, drawing back between the communities that live in Kasese, we are natives. That is what is key. Either you are Musongora, either you are Mukonjo, either you are Munyabindi, either you are Muchingwe or Mugabo. There's some other small setup of small communities.
The Bakonzo were predominantly cultivators who lived along the Rwenzori mountain ranges, where the Basongora nomadic pastoralists lived along the lowlands. In the early 1905, the British colonial government started the process to gazette the Queen Elizabeth National Park, which comprised a lot of the lowlands in Kasese, which was Basongora ancestral land. Besides the lush savanna and picturesque natural beauty, according to history accounts dating back to the records of explorers Henry Morton Stanley and Frederick Lugard, the decision to degazette the area around Lakes Edward and George was informed by the fact that it was depopulated, caused by especially the breakout of cester flies and later rinderpest. The disease outbreaks forced majority of Basongora to migrate farthest into the eastern Zaire, while those who remained switched economic activities such as salt mining and fishing to survive. Only a few Basongora pastoralists were left in the area. David Mulindwa, a community mobilizer among Basongora, says the biggest problem is a section of politicians who exploit the ignorance of the masses to inflame the crisis.
There's been a lot of politicization in the matters to do with governance in Kasese. So when we came in, we found out that there were two main factors. One, we needed to see there was, instead of people offering leadership, people were offering political leadership, politicized. And now we came out when Kasese was very polarized. Kasese is being run on sentimental politics.
He says no one amongst his community is against mutual coexistence.
Lived together. Some of them have married within us. Others are even us who've married. We have long outstanding friendship. The blood pact friendship exists between all the tribes. Either it cuts across. Either he's a Mukonjo, he has a blood pact friendship with a Musongora. Hugely, one-on-one, you can't find any difference. Well, one of the issues that have always come, you find that an individual gets conflicts with another fellow colleague, but you target on a community, which has been wrong.
Today, Kasese district covers an expanse of 3,389 square kilometers, of which 63% is gazetted for nature and wildlife conservation chiefly, Queen Elizabeth National Park and the Rwenzori Mountains National Park, and other government projects such as prison farms and irrigation scheme. Yet the population density land pressure is swelling every day, further stoking the flames of interminable ethnic tensions. According to UBOS, Kasese is the fifth populous district in the country behind Wakiso, Kampala, Chibale, and Arua. The Bakonzo leaders accuse government of imposing alien Basongora pastoralists on the little land available. Paul Byakatonda, a former RDC who is amongst a group of 289 that sued government in 2009 and won the case in 2012, says they are facing an existential threat.
Find leadership going contrary to what the Constitution says, what the law says, and therefore you expect me to again come and ask me for a vote and I give it to you? That one is going to push us into rebellion almost. I have 5 children here who haven't paid fees. And every season of cotton, I had a profit of 18 million.
In 2007, the government undertook the resettlement of a group of 8,000 Basongora pastoralists and their 50,000 herd of cattle from the Queen Elizabeth National Park, where they settled upon expulsion from Virunga Park in eastern Congo. The resettlement was rubber-stamped by cabinet on decision to settle the pastoralists on land measuring 2,050 acres in Rehingo, Muruti, and Bukangara villages in Nyakatozi sub-county, which straddles Bakonzo West and Bakonzo East counties.
They don't have enough cows to go and graze animals there. They are hiring it to us. You grab my land and you grab it to me. You make me hire it to me. Huh? Is that normal? You drive me into poverty when I had a means of production. You withdraw me from production and threaten me, and then you want to rule me.
Well, the land was Basongora ancestral land by the 1900s. By 2007, it was technically owned by majority Bakonzo cultivators, some of whom occupied the land for 60 years by the time the 1995 constitution came into force. In 2012, Byakatonda and 289 others sued government at the Fort Portal High Court. The presiding judge, Owinyudolo, now Chief Justice, in April 2012 ruled that the cultivators group are the lawful proprietors of the land and entitled to immediate possession. The group was also awarded general damages amounting to 2.8 billion shillings and 578 million shillings in punitive damages.
Waited only to hear that the money which was remaining has been taken by the lawyer, which lawyer we had already refused and picked another one. You can imagine.
10 years later, after Justice Dolo's judgment, the Bakonzo have not been allowed back on the land. The government argues the resettlement was a means of restitution, correcting the injustices of the colonial administration. The government has also thwarted all attempts to redraw the boundaries using the Lokaris line on the contested land. The Lokaris line, named after the current junior energy minister who was an administrator in the district in the late 1980s, is the form of rudimentary boundary reached as a middle ground during consultative meetings of the late 1980s, early 1990s to distribute the land, with the Bakonzo cultivators occupying one side and the Basongora pastoralists occupying another.
The land in dispute is not settled by anyone. So if we are to be restated onto the land, no one is going to be evicted. But the difference is that we as cultivators, we permanently sit and cultivate. We cannot access the land, but while our colleagues, because they have stock that moves, their cows can come on the land and they still take them away. So the land in question is not settled. Actually, sometimes when we talk of being restated on the land, some people tend to think that there are people settled on that land who must be moved for us to go there. There are no people who are settled on the land.
The chairperson of Basongora Community Leadership Association, Ramahe Rutakumwa, urged government to complete the resettlement of his people on the land.
What we are saying is that we need what is ours. We are not asking for land that is not ours. We're asking for land that is ours. In any case, if we had to lay claim to all the lands that used to belong to us, we would be asking for way more than what government has pledged to us.
He said, they Basongora are not against coexistence.
Government, in recognition of these problems that the Basongora were facing, as I mentioned, I referred to them earlier as the immediate problems, but also reflecting on the historical injustices that the Basongora have suffered, decided to resettle the Basongora by allocating them different areas of land.
Bakonzo leaders maintain they have coexisted with Basongora for years, but the majority of the current group laying claim on the land are aliens.
It is for an ordinary Musongora, I know, for example, even if that land was taken by Basongora, how many Basongoras are going to be given the 2,050 acres? There should be some people who know they would directly benefit. So for an ordinary Mukonjo, for an ordinary Musongora, this conflict over land is just an issue that is being fueled by other people, not ordinarily sentiments of the communities. There is no inherent hostility between the Basongora and the Bakonjo. It is not there.
In 1992, President Museveni constituted a 6-member committee led by the then Junior Minister for Luwero Triangle, Kisamba Mugera, to look into the land tensions between the two groups. The committee established that after degazetting large chunks of Basongora land for the Queen Elizabeth National Park, the pastoralists continued to exit their homelands throughout the 1930s and 1940s. However, due to the disturbances caused by the Mulele Rebellion in the then Eastern Zaire, some started returning home from about 1964. By this time, the land had been relocated to the Bakonzo for cotton growing and other ventures. The Kisamba Committee, in its January 5, 1993 report, however, concluded that, and I quote, "The land dispute in the district is not ethnically motivated, although it has assumed overtones, but it is essentially as a result of the shortage of land, and even if the district was inhabited by one ethnic group, there are bound to be conflicts because of pressure on land." So why do the tensions persist 30 years later? Opinion leaders of both communities point fingers in different directions.
The only way forward is for government to urgently complete the resettlement exercise, and after that we are very positive that there will be some harmony.
Basongora lost about 98% of their land. They lost it to Queen Elizabeth National Park. They were never compensated.
There could be sinister motives. And now we understand now Kasese is a bed of roses for tourism activities now. You can't tell. You can't tell. Even when I bring such, it is a time when we found out that somebody who had an exploration license in Nyamununka Crater Lake, the geothermal. He was a former lands official who retired.
We were given surveyors to come and survey the land. They reach Kasese, the RDC says no. The RDC and the cow. So we feel very, very much offended.
These are the elements which are coming in, trying to push, to stoke anger in the community, trying to make sure that there is a disagreement between us. For an ordinary Basongora and ordinary Bakonzo, there is no problem. But some elements who may say, I can call them mafias, with greed, that's where the problem is.
During the consultative meetings of 2007, after resettlement of the Basongora from Queen Elizabeth, the then Minister of Agriculture said the government would convert an additional 2,500 acres of public land around the district and distribute it between the two groups. This would be shared in ratios of 3 acres for each pastoralist family and 1 acre for cultivator family. Bakonzo got 8,000 acres and Basongora 1,700 acres. Bakonzo leaders, however, say only the Basongora pastoralists have been considered, while majority of their communities wait in anguish. What is apparent is that government continues to exploit the tensions between the two groups for political expediency, but to guarantee the safety of two communities, a lasting solution is long overdue because the alternative is the routine clashes resulting into injuries and death.